Your soul is a garden designed to bring forth life. Within it lies your heart, a sacred space to be tended and guarded, for everything flows from its soil. Begin by clearing the ground, uprooting the weeds, removing the stones, nourish the soil, and provide what it needs to grow strong and healthy. Above all else, guard this space, for even the smallest seeds will take roots. Growth takes time, the seasons will shift, storms will come, but a well-tended garden remains. And in time, your soul will overflow with life that reflects the vision of the gardener.
All right, good morning, everyone. Welcome again to Island ECC. I'm Tim. I'm one of the pastors here at the church, and it's great to be here with you as we continue in this Soul Garden sermon series, looking at our hearts and how to protect our hearts, how to help our hearts grow as well. And we've been thinking about this for just 1 week so far. Pastor Eric kicked us off last week, looking at the idea of what our heart is, and how we can guard it and how we can help garden it as well and help it to grow. And so this week we're going to be looking at the idea of it growing and what it's growing towards. And we've been using this verse as kind of our theme. This proverb says, above all else, guard your heart, for everything you do flows from it. Everything we do in our life, it flows from our heart. So we need to protect and guard our heart to make sure we know where our heart is growing towards. Now, 19 years ago, in this month of January, Apple announced the new iPhone. And I remember watching the announcement of this, and I was so excited because I'd never seen anything like this. It was a revolutionary new device. It was going to change the world. And I watched that announcement just flabbergasted. Like, I can't believe we have this kind of technology now. Now, the phone didn't make it to Hong Kong until a year and a half later. So between that announcement until a year and a half later, with my wife, Cindy, every time we would be out in the city and we're looking for something or trying to find out some more information or needed to Google something, I would always be with her and say, you know, if I had an iPhone, I could tell you all this information. If I had an iPhone, I could find out where we need to go. I mean, there's GPS on this thing, you know? And I just kept thinking of all the possibilities of what we could do with this phone. And finally it came in 2008 and it kind of changed our whole city. It changed the whole world. Now, fast forward, almost 20 years later, we're living in a whole different reality. I mean, almost everyone has a smartphone of some brand, of some sort. And we've realized that this revolutionary device has kind of become a ball and chain. You know, it's our brain in our pocket. A lot of people keep their wallets on their phone, their octopus card on your phone. You have all your entertainment, the games, Netflix, YouTube, Instagram, all that stuff is on there. People keep their Bibles on their phones. You know, a lot of us have our Bibles on the phones. As a matter of fact, when I got my first iPhone, the very first app I downloaded was the Bible app. And I said, this is going to be the main app on my phone, and I'm not going to be distracted from it. This is the primary app on my phone, and I'm going to pay more attention to this, and I'm going to redeem this amazing device. And, you know, we all know how that goes. Now, the phones are incredible, but you know, it's really not fair. And they've become a distraction because it seems that there are a lot of the companies out there trying to distract us. They're trying to get our attention. And they're working really hard and a lot of strategies on how they can gain our attention. So it's really not fair on us because what they've begun to realize is that the most valuable commodity in this world now is our time and attention. And so they're fighting for it. They're using all kinds of tricks and schemes and all sorts of things to get our algorithms formed to where we keep going deeper and deeper into this tunnel. And you know, there's a person who worked at one of the large social media companies who was quoted in the New York Times a few years ago. They said this, I am convinced the devil lives in our phones. This is a person who worked for the company making these things. And that blew my mind when I said that. I'm convinced the devil lives in these phones. Now, this isn't a message about the evils of technology. Technology is amazing. It can do amazing things. But it's more about thinking about that algorithm that we have on all these different devices and all these different platforms that we use. And we give all these companies our data every single day with every little thing that we do. And they collect it and they form it and they give us more information and more things to turn our attention to. And then at the end of the year, they wrap it all up and they give us a nice little gift, the Spotify Wrapped or the YouTube Rewind or whatever it is to say, here's what you did this year. Take a look. Isn't it amazing? Look at your favorite band. Look at your favorite song. Look at all these videos you watched. Look at all the stuff you did. And a lot of us, we see that and we go, oh my gosh, I did that all year long? That's what I devoted all of my time and attention to? Now, a lot of parents would protest this and would say, hey, look, I have kids. My kids use my phone. They listen to Spotify. And I'd say, you know what? It's okay. You don't have to apologize. We all know you secretly love K-pop demon hunters. It's okay. But that's what happens. We see all of this thing. We see all this information. And we look at our year and we go, wow, I gave a lot of my attention to things that don't really matter or things that aren't really that important and to pull me away from God. And so that's really what we're going to be thinking about here today is this idea. And I just started reading a new book. It says, it's a book called Siren's Call, How Attention Became the World's Most Endangered Resource. And there's a quote, it says, we all intuitively grasp the value of our attention, because what we pay attention to constitutes our inner lives. What we pay attention to constitutes our inner lives. And that's a really great thesis, a great idea for that book and to move forward in thinking about that in our lives. But that great quote was also said almost 2,000 years ago by Jesus in a much different way, in a more eloquent way. And in Jesus' Sermon on the Mount, he's talking to his disciples. He's trying to help them think about the material things on earth, kind of in the idea of material things and wealth and money and that sort of thing. And he says this, he says, do not lay up for yourselves treasures on earth where moth and rust destroy and where thieves break in and steal. He says, but lay up for yourselves treasures in heaven where neither moth nor rust destroys and where thieves do not break in and steal. So we should put our treasures in heaven. For where your treasure is, your heart will be also. Where your treasure is, your heart will be also. So when we think about our desires and the things that we want, and the things that we are attracted to, and the things that we go for, it's really shaping our heart into that direction. It's moving our heart into that direction. So we really need to pay attention to this because our hearts grow in the direction of our desires. All of these algorithms, all of these things that we're seeing every single day that are pulling us from one way to another, our hearts are following that. They're following that, and our hearts begin to grow in the direction of our desires. So we really need to focus on what our desires are. What are our true desires, and where should they be headed, and what should they be connected to? Now, I think for every single one of us, we all go through this. We are human beings. We're easily distracted. We're sinful. We're fallible. We make mistakes. And we can be deceived. We can be pulled in many different directions. So it really is a complex thing that we deal with every single day. And it's something that we really need to focus on God with and give this all to him. But he knows what we do. He knows what we go through. And Jeremiah, the prophet who was a prophet to the people of Israel in the last few decades of the kingdom of Judah, he was talking to the people. He brought a prophecy to the people. And these people were outwardly religious, but inwardly they were kind of wavering. They were going the wrong way. And he brings this prophecy to them. He says, but my people have exchanged their glorious God for worthless idols, for things that won't fill them. It says, my people have committed two sins. They have forsaken me, the spring of living water, and they have dug their own cisterns, broken cisterns that cannot hold water. So forsaken God, who can bring unlimited water, fresh, pure water, and then created their own man-made water receptacles that can crack, that can break, that can run dry, and that could never fully sustain them. So God sees this in all of us. He sees that we begin to chase different idols. We chase things that we think will fill us, that will bring us joy or bring us satisfaction, but really they're empty and they can run dry. In his book, Counterfeit Gods, Tim Keller says, an idol is anything more important to you than God. Anything that absorbs your heart and imagination more than God. Anything you seek to give you what you want, only God can give. So this thing that absorbs our heart, this thing that we seek out, and it absorbs our imagination more than what God does for us. And that deviates us, that moves us into the wrong direction. It moves us into the wrong direction where we begin chasing after these things that will never, ever satisfy. And I don't know how many of us think of our phone as an idol or think of an Instagram reel as an idol, but it can become that because it can absorb us and it can move our heart into the wrong direction. A direction that's not moving towards God. It may not even necessarily be evil. It could be something that's just filler, but it's not moving ourselves towards God. It's not moving ourselves towards God. And this is something that is a tale as old as time, literally. Something that we have been struggling with since the very beginning. In Genesis chapter 3, we see the man and the woman in the garden, and the woman was deceived by the serpent. And I want to just show you exactly what it says when the woman was deceived in the garden. So when the woman saw the fruit of the tree was good for food and pleasing to the eye, and also desirable for gaining wisdom. When she saw this, she took and ate it. So she saw that it was pleasing to the eye. Now think about the situation, the proximity of things. She's standing in front of this tree and there's this fruit right there. It's so close she can touch it. And it's pleasing to the eye and desirable for gaining wisdom. Where God might have been further away or not able to see him or not very close. And so that's what we tend to do all the time as human beings. We grab for the close thing, the more pleasing to the eye thing, the thing that looks more tantalizing rather than reaching out for God. And so she took some and ate it. She also gave some to her husband who was with her, and he ate it. And I always like to point out that the husband was standing right there and didn't say a word, so he's culpable too. So they were there, and they did the same thing. They saw what was pleasing, and they went for the easy thing. And as we read in Romans, thinking about the wicked people in Romans chapter 1, they exchanged the truth about God for a lie. They exchanged the truth about God for a lie. And so this is where we find our hearts. We find our hearts wanting and hoping to be with God, trying to seek God, but we tend to be distracted by that tantalizing thing, by that close thing, by the thing that's pleasing to the eye. The problem is with us is that when we begin to do this, when we begin to think, oh, well, it's not that big of a deal. This is really not a bad thing. You know, I do it and it doesn't seem to hurt anyone. It doesn't hurt me. But really, we need to know that it's forming our heart. It's changing our heart. It's changing the direction of our lives. But if we say that, oh, it's really not that big of a deal. I just like it. You know, it reminds me of this quote that was said years ago by a person who was connected to Hollywood, who was in this sordid affair, going through this scandalous situation. And they just said this about this affair: the heart wants what it wants. There's no logic to these things. And it was kind of this like excuse, like, well, the heart just wants what it wants. So I'm going to go through with this affair because the heart just wants what it wants. There's no logic to these things. And I think that's a dangerous way to think about this. It's a dangerous way to say, well, the heart just wants what it wants, because the heart doesn't really know what it wants. It just chases after a desire, and there has to be logic to it. There has to be some sort of boundary or parameter that we put around to make sure our heart is growing in the right direction. Our desires have to be chasing the right thing. They have to be growing towards the right thing. Because desire isn't bad. It's not bad to have desires of the heart. It just needs direction. You know, that last example of that person wanting love, wanting companionship. It's not wrong to desire love and companionship. It's wrong when it's done in an adulterous way or in the wrong way. But if you do it in the right way, if you do it in the correct way, then it lines up with the ways of God. And so if we think about our desires in our life, the things that we chase, that we hunger for, that we look towards, if we do it in the right direction, it will be in tune with God. We see that desire is God-given. God gives us desires. He says, delight yourself in the Lord, and he will give you the desires of your heart. So it's okay to have desires, but this is not saying that God will give you every single thing you want, that whatever desire you have, you want $1 billion or 10 brand new cars or whatever it is. That's not necessarily what he's saying. He's saying if you delight yourself in the Lord, if you stay with God, if you're in presence with God, then he will give you the desires of your heart, because your desires begin to conform with his desires. They begin to line up with his desires. So these desires that we have, they're okay. They're good. They're God-given. And John Piper, he says that God is most glorified when we are most satisfied in him. It's one of his big theses on life, is that God is most glorified when we are most satisfied in him. So if we just stay satisfied in God, we will be content, but God will also be glorified, that if we delight ourselves in God. But desire needs direction, that we need to set our minds on things that are above, not on things that are of the earth. Set our things on minds that are above. Just as Jesus said, that we store up our treasures in heaven, not our treasures on earth. So we set our minds with things that are above, not the things that are on earth. And I think, again, for all of us, we start strong. When we come to faith, or maybe we have a turning point or a repentant moment in our life, that we start strong and we start directed, centered on God. And we want to go that way. But then things happen. Life gets in the way. Like we just sang earlier this morning, Christ is the center of our lives. We just sang that. But we know that as we go through our days that we begin to deviate. It goes crooked. It goes the wrong way sometimes. So again, we need to set our minds on things above. I want to show you a picture here. This is a forest in Poland. This is crooked tree forest in Poland. And I think this is really fascinating, the way these trees grow. Now, they don't really know exactly why these trees have grown this way. There are some assumptions. One was that maybe there was a heavy snowfall at one point in their infancy and caused them to go a different direction. Or maybe it's some weird gravitational pull in this area. Or this could be the upside down in Stranger Things. Nobody really knows what it is. But what they assume and what the consensus is that this is man-made. At some point, man stepped in and made these trees grow this way. And they think maybe they did that to make these trees to be like chairs or to be like benches in this forest, or they could have been made this way to become lumber for boat building, to have curved boats. They're not really sure exactly why they're that way, but they do assume that man did this. And what I think is fascinating about this is if you think about our Christian life, it's like just like this. You start off strong, you're growing towards God, you're focused on God, and then life gets in the way, distractions get in the way, sin gets in the way, and we begin deviating from it. But if we see, just like this forest, as man got out of the way, the tree started growing back towards the correct direction. It started growing towards the main light source above. It wasn't growing in the wrong direction. And I think if we would just get out of our own way, if we would just put ourselves in the back seat, if we would just move out of the way of God and focus on the things above, then we would begin growing in the right direction. We would begin growing in the right direction. But again, this is something we all go through. I've been there. I understand this. I know exactly how it feels. But when we begin to drift, when our desires drift, we see these things. Control replaces Christ. Control replaces Christ. We want to trust God right away, but then after a little while, we begin to think we can do things better than God can do them. Just like the man and the woman in the garden. They took the fruit to gain wisdom. They didn't trust God in that way. So we begin to control things, and we look to that more than we do to God. Distraction replaces devotion. We get so distracted. There's so many things going on. It's not just entertainment. It could be work. It could be emails. It could be social life. It could be all of those things going on. We get distracted. and we stop devoting ourselves to God first, we pull away, Safety replaces surrender. Safety can replace surrender. We stop surrendering ourselves to the will of God, and we just want to play it safe. We just want to be comfortable. We want to stay in our own place and not step outside of our comfort zone. Or productivity replaces presence. That maybe we're serving God, we're doing godly things, we're volunteering, we're praying, we're doing all these things, but we're not doing it in presence with God. We're doing it for God, but we're not doing it with God. And then I think sometimes apathy can replace awe. That we get apathetic, we kind of lose heart, and we don't feel moved anymore. And we're not looking at God as being awesome. We're looking at other things that are kind of cool, but we're not looking at God as being completely awesome in our lives. I remember talking to a man in my church back in the States years ago when I was kind of on my way into ministry. And he told me that he didn't want his daughter to go into ministry because he didn't want her to lose her joy for Christ. And I remember that hitting me really hard, like thinking wow, I can't believe he said that. And this is a wonderful Christian family, great mentor. But he didn't want even his own daughter to go into ministry. And I'm like, well, I'm going to seminary. See you later. And that always stuck with me because I think he knew as an older man at that time that we can deviate and we can start doing things and we can get apathetic and we can start trying to chase these other desires and these other things and lose our devotion to God or lose our sense of wonder of who God is. So for all of us, we need to begin to get back on the right track. We need to go on the right course and to refocus ourselves on God, to refocus ourselves on what God is doing in our lives and to understand that that's where our desires need to be focused because that's what's going to help us grow the most. And we see in Hebrews this classic passage that says, let us run with perseverance the race marked out for us, fixing our eyes on Jesus. Fixing our eyes on Jesus, the pioneer and the perfecter of our faith. He's the pioneer. He's gone before us. And so if we watch him, if we follow him, and we fix our eyes on him, then our focus can go back to who he is for us. That we can refocus on him and continue to grow in that correct direction. Where all these other things that are distracting us, we can put those aside, but then we can go back to focusing on Christ. And Jesus, after he talked about the treasures on earth and treasures in heaven, right after that, he said this, the eye is the lamp of the body. So if your eye is healthy, your whole body will be full of light. Our eye is the lamp of the body. So what we see, what we ingest, what we bring into our lives will continue to tell us where our light is. Are we bringing in good things? Are we bringing in positive things? Are we bringing in godly things? Or are we bringing in bad things that are going to distract us and pull away from God? So our focus is very important. Our eyes are very important. Everything that we're doing, because our focus will feed our soul. What we're looking towards will feed our soul and help us to grow the right way. And we need to make sure it's going the right way, that we feed on the proper thing. Like if we think about a garden, that a plant feeds on the right nutrients and that they have to grow the right way. And that we have these hungers, we have these desires inside of us. And it's not wrong. Again, it's not wrong to have desires. It's not wrong to have hungers. We just need to be hungering for the right thing. We need to be hungry for the right thing. Because if we do that, we realize that God doesn't take away our hunger. He doesn't say, don't be hungry anymore. He just changes our taste. He changes our taste for the right thing. If we keep chasing the wrong thing, he can help us change our taste for the right thing. Now, pizza is one of my favorite foods. I absolutely love pizza. Now, when I was a kid, pizza was not necessarily rare, but it didn't happen all the time. So it was always an exciting time when our family got to have pizza, or we have pizza at school or something like that. But when I became an adult and got to university and had some money from working part-time, we had an all-you-can-eat pizza buffet restaurant close to our university for very, very cheap. It was very, very inexpensive to go eat all-you-can-eat pizza. And I'm like, I'm an adult now. I can do whatever I want with my money, and I'm going to that pizza buffet. and I tore it up constantly. Now, the jeans that I wore the year before did not fit me that year. They got a little bit tighter, actually a lot tighter, and I needed to kind of think about what I was doing, but it didn't really stop me because it was so cheap and it was so good, and I absolutely love pizza. Now, as I got older, I began to realize that pizza is probably not the healthiest option for me. You know, it still tastes good, it still tastes amazing, but it's probably not healthy for my body, and I need to start thinking about how to eat better. So I started looking at healthier options like lean protein and vegetables and salads and that sort of thing. And after a while of doing that, I began to notice that my tastes changed. And I remember one specific night, I was about to eat dinner and I had this plate of food and there was some broccoli on my plate. And I looked at the broccoli and my mouth started watering for broccoli. And it hit me like a ton of, I was like, what has happened to me? Like the same feeling I had for pizza is now for broccoli. This doesn't make any sense, but my taste had changed. And I began to crave the things that were good for me because I knew that I would feel better after I did that, after I ate that. And now when I think about pizza, panic just rushes in because I'm like, oh, I'm going to feel so bad after I ate it. I'm going to feel so greasy. I really shouldn't know, you know. I still have a slice or two, but I instantly feel like, oh, I don't feel as good as I did if I ate like a piece of chicken or something like that. So God does that for us. If we begin to just enter into his world, if we enter into this devotion of him and focus our eyes on Christ, then God can change our taste. And he tells us, taste and see that the Lord is good. Taste and see that the Lord is good. This is the better food for you, not the other things. Blessed is the one who takes refuge in him. If you just take refuge in God, taste and see that the Lord is good. And maybe you're in that spot right now. Maybe you've come here today and you're just testing this out, or you're just trying to understand Christianity and you've tried all the other things, and now you're here to think about this and you're tasting to see that the Lord is good, and he is good. We still struggle. We still have sin in our lives. We still have issues in our life, but we all come here and we all gather and we worship God because we know that the Lord is good. We've tasted and we've seen. So we continue to chase that. John Piper has another great quote in his book, A Hunger for God. It says, the greatest enemy of hunger for God is not poison, but apple pie or pizza. It's not the banquet of the wicked that dulls our appetite for heaven. It's the endless nibbling at the table of the world. I think that's such an interesting quote. You think about the world has a buffet of options. You know, a huge buffet of options out there for us. And I'm picking on social media because that's probably one that has shown us that there's so many little nibbles out there. There's a dopamine hit after dopamine hit after dopamine hit everywhere. So we see all of these things that we can nibble on that will never sustain us. So it's not poison that's the enemy of hunger for God. It's all these other seemingly innocuous things that seem to not be that big of a deal, but really it's changing our hearts. It's changing our hearts. So if our tastes change and we begin to hunger for God, then we will be filled. Jesus says also in the Sermon on the Mount, blessed are those who hunger and thirst for righteousness, so they will be filled. We hunger and thirst for righteousness, for they will be filled. So if we hunger and thirst for the righteousness of God, then we will be filled. So we think about, what does that look like for us? How do we do that? Well, it's about devotion to God. It's about putting God first. It's about starting our days with God. It's about praying to God and reading our scripture and talking with people who encourage us and being in community and worshiping God. You know, think about where we are right now. It's Sunday. For a lot of people, this is your only day off, and you've chosen to be here at church. And I think that's a great way of hungering and thirsting for God, that you want to come here and you want to start your week with this. And again, this could be every single day we can continue to do this, that we put God right in the middle first before everything and hunger and thirst for him. Now, again, for all of us, I think we can be distracted and we can be restless and we can go all over the place. And Augustine has a great quote. It says, our hearts are restless until they rest in you. And so when we have all these distractions and we have all these things going on in our life, if we would just stop and rest in God, as we just sang earlier, be still and know that he is God. Just stop and rest in him. And we can just spend time in devotion and presence and wonder and awe of him. I think that would be a great thing for us, that we put the distractions away. That would be really great for us. And we see in Psalm 27, I think David sums this up so perfectly, and we're going to wrap up with this. He says, one thing I ask from the Lord, this only do I seek. This one thing, that I may dwell in the house of the Lord all the days of my life, to gaze on the beauty of the Lord and to seek him in his temple. It says this one thing I ask. Well, he's really asking for three things here, but the one thing he asks, is to dwell in the house, that we can dwell in the house of God. It doesn't have to be here at church. We live in spirit and truth. Our body is a temple of the Holy Spirit. We can dwell with God everywhere, that we dwell with him, that we gaze on the beauty of the Lord, that we look to him and we're inspired. He's awe-inspiring to us. And we see the miracles around us and the things that he's doing, and to seek him in his temple, to continue to pursue these desires that are in tune with God and who he is, to seek him in the temple. So to summarize this and to make it a little bit simpler, we can say, let your heart live, dwell with God, dwell at home with him, to look, to gaze at the wonder of God, and to lean, to seek desires that honor God, that we live with him, we dwell with him, we look to him, and then we lean towards him with everything that we do. There's so many things that can pull us away from that. But if we taste and see that that's the right way, then that will help our hearts grow in the right direction, to live, to look, and to lean on him. Now, one of my favorite new Gen Z slang terms is the phrase, touch grass. I don't know if you guys have heard this. Maybe some of you have. I love this phrase, touch grass. And what that means is go offline, turn off your computer, and go outside and literally touch grass. And I think it's great. I honestly think it's great because I have teenagers and I've been fighting the battle of screen time my whole existence, it feels like. There's so many new things and I'm trying to navigate for them and help them. But I'm glad that the generation is realizing, hey, maybe we should do this too. Maybe we should touch grass. We should go outside, get offline, and stop with all these distractions. Just go be in nature. And I think if we all did that, if we all went outside and we touched grass, we could go out into nature and explore what God has given us, this beautiful creation, not on a screen, but actually IRL. That means in real life. So we could do that. We could go outside and touch grass, and maybe we'd see the sunflower, the wonderful, amazing sunflower. Now, it's named a sunflower because it obviously looks like a sun, but what's fascinating about a sunflower is that it actually follows the sun throughout the day. And I think this is amazing, especially in its younger form. It actually tracks the sun's movement across the sky every single day. Now, I was watching time-lapse videos of sunflowers this week because what else am I going to do? I'm not distracted, am I? I was actually working on this sermon and doing that. But I was watching time-lapse videos of sunflowers, and what I think is incredible is that you can see them actually, as the sun goes over the sky, their little heads follow. But what's really cool is that nighttime, when the sun sets in the west, the flower begins to turn back towards the east overnight, waiting for the sun to return. And then it follows it back across the sky every day. What an amazing thing. And what a great metaphor for our lives, that every single day we just look at that light source in the sky, that we follow it every single day. And at night, when we prepare ourselves for bed and we get ready for the next day, we say, God, I want to focus on you in the morning. I'm going to turn my little head back to you in the morning. And I think that's such a great idea for all of us. The sunflower doesn't follow a lamp. It doesn't follow a candle. It follows the main source of light, the sun. And I think for all of us too, we keep following these candles and we keep following these lamps when really God is saying, no, I'm the source of light that you need to follow. Stop looking at these other things that will never fill you. Look to me. Because whatever's brightest in your life is shaping how you grow. Whatever is brightest in your life is shaping how you grow. I don't know if you've ever seen yourself looking at your phone at night with the lights off. That is the brightest thing in your life. Okay? And we've all become desensitized. So we're staring at a flashlight, a torch every night. And then we're like, why can't I fall asleep? I know why. But whatever's brightest in our life is shaping how we grow. The sun is bright for that sunflower, and God is bright for us. And if we trust in God as our true light source, then we will grow towards him. So the question to ask all of us as we leave here today, what is my heart growing towards right now? What is my heart growing towards right now? Ask yourself that question. I'm asking myself that question as well. Ask yourself that question as you leave here today and think about where your heart is growing. Let me pray for us. God, we thank you so much for this great day. God, I thank you that we can gather here as a church community to come and to worship you. God, we sing these songs to be the center of our lives. And I pray that you would make that so for us, that if we are distracted, if our desires are off course, if we are hungering for the wrong things, God, that you would change our tastes, that you would help us to taste and see that you are good and that you would truly be the center of our lives. God, I pray that we would look to you as our source and grow in the right direction. God, I thank you for our friends and our families here. I thank you for everyone who's not here, who we love around our city. And I pray that we can continue to support each other in this endeavor, that we can look out for one another, that we can pray for each other. But ultimately, God, I just pray that we would see that you're more important than any of the other things that we are distracted by, and that we can focus on you and grow towards you. We thank you, God. We pray this in Jesus' name. Amen.